On behalf of ICIMA, I thank you for joining us today for the inaugural edition of the ICIMA CE Technology Summit. We thank our knowledge partners, PwC India, whose fruitful cooperation and constant support have been invaluable in putting together a meaningful and relevant event. Our guest of honor today is none other than Sri Vijay Mittal, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Heavy Industries, Government of India. We are truly honored to have you here, sir. I now call upon Mr. Dimitrov Krishnan, Convener ICIMA Technology and Sustainability Panel and Managing Director, Volvo Construction Equipment India Private Limited, to commence the inaugural session with his welcome address.
A very warm welcome to all of you and a good morning. Adaniya Sri Vijay Mittalji, thank you, sir, for taking the time and always being very supportive of our industry's needs in every way possible. And thanks for taking the time to join us on this first ever inaugural technology summit for the Indian construction equipment industry. I would also like to welcome Sri Vipin Shonji ji. Thanks, sir, for joining us here. It's really great to have you here. Vikas ji, thanks for joining us as well. And to all the delegates from our industry and also media and my friends. Today is a very significant moment for our industry. It's the first time we have come together to talk about the recently launched Technology Vision Roadmap that was launched during the annual session in August this year. And we will deliberate deeply into the areas of the findings from that technology roadmap that has been released. It is a very significant moment for the industry. This technology roadmap has come together not just based on a few minds working together, but the whole industry working together to try and define where are we headed. In the year 2021, ICIMA launched its Vision Plan 2030. It was launched in December 2021, where we set an ambition to be the second largest construction equipment industry in the world. And while we were already number 3, we said we would like to be number 2 in the world. And in this journey, grow from being a $6.5 billion industry to $25 billion in 2030. Such a huge growth comes, of course, because the country is progressing and country is investing in developing itself, particularly with a focus, a very strong focus the Government of India has on the infrastructure development. We have seen in the last 2 budgets the 35% increase year over year in the outlays that have been put for infrastructure. This is a great moment for our industry, and it is a moment that we need to harness in a good way. With this Technology Vision Roadmap 2035, what we aim to also do is to set the benchmark of where we as an industry would like to reach qualitatively in this period. This has been a work of collaboration, innovation, and collective pursuit for a better technologically advanced future. For an industry that is engaged in nation building and infrastructure development, embracing technology is not just a choice, but it's an imperative. The Indian CE industry's aspiration of becoming the world's second largest, as well as the fastest growing global manufacturing and export hub, will essentially be driven by adoption of cutting-edge technology to stay ahead of the innovation curve. As the convener of the Technology and Sustainability Panel of ICIMA, this panel was formed post the Vision Plan 2030 when we converted ourselves from being a pure technical panel working with regulatory related matters to a much more aspirational panel, and we called ourselves the Technology and Sustainability Panel. I am profoundly honored to stand before you not just as a representative of our industry, but also as a fellow visionary and stakeholder in the future of our industry. Personally, I have been in this construction equipment industry for more than 30 years. I started off as a service engineer working with machines on the field, and today I lead Volvo's construction equipment business. I've had the chance to work both in India as well as in the Asian context, based out of Singapore for almost 9 years. And I must say, I'm very proud to see where the Indian industry has reached in this time frame of the time that I've spent in this industry. This summit, which is focusing on the technology vision roadmap for the Indian CE industry, has been carefully curated to provide a platform for transformative discussions, knowledge sharing, but most importantly, actions. We have assembled a diverse group of thought leaders, experts, and stakeholders, each bringing their unique insights and experience to the table. Together, we are poised to chart a course that will lead our industry into the digital age, concurrently enhancing safety, productivity, and sustainability. As we dwell into the sessions and discussions ahead, I encourage you all to embrace this opportunity for also networking, collaboration, and learning. The challenges before us are substantial, but so too are the opportunities. We must harness the power of technology not only to streamline our processes and elevate our efficiency, but to also prioritize the safety of our workforce and minimize the impact we have on the environment. Our industry has profound impact on the lives of millions of people in India and beyond. At last count, we have, as an industry, impact 3 million lives in our entire value chain. We build the infrastructure that connects communities, drives economic growth, and reshapes the future. Therefore, the decisions we make, the innovations we adopt, and the roadmap we craft today will echo through the years, leaving a lasting legacy for generations to come. This summit also holds a paramount significance for our industry's history. It is a pivotal moment where industry leaders, innovators, and visionaries have come together to lay the foundation for a transformative future. I believe, just like the automotive industry, the construction equipment industry is in the middle of a transformative shift from diesel to a future of alternative fuels and electric. Adoption of cutting-edge technology is key for enhancing safety, boosting productivity, and championing sustainability in our operations. The decisions we make and the solutions we conceive here will ripple across the entire industry, influencing the way we build and innovate for the generations to come. Together, we have the power to redefine the norms and set higher standards, ensuring that our industry thrives in a rapidly changing world while safeguarding the well-being of our workers, efficiency of our processes, and the sustainability of our planet. Let us approach this summit with an open mind, a collaborative spirit, and a commitment to action. Together, we can turn our collective vision into reality, and together, we can shape the Indian sea industry into a beacon of innovation and sustainability. Once again, I extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you in this journey. Let's make this summit a resounding success and set our industry on a path towards a brighter, more technologically empowered future. Thank you, and let's begin this exciting journey together.
Yeah, very warm welcome to each and every one of you for coming for this first ever CE Technology Summit, which is the first in its class, like what DK said. Before I go too far, I would definitely want to extend a warm welcome to Mr. Vijay Mittal, who has always been a great supporter of this industry. And thank you very much, sir, for taking your time and coming here as a chief guest of honor. And thanks, Mr. Vikas Dograji, for coming here. And thanks, Vipin. You have been a mentor for this industry for a long period of time. We will continue to count on your expertise for the industry in the coming years, too. So, as you all know, that ICMA has got a clear vision laid out that we want to become a credible voice of the industry. And ICMA has been definitely doing that for a long period of time. And if you were to really just step back and look at what ICMA has been doing, we have been really just so tactical about it. And we have been getting great support from all the stakeholders, by virtue of which we are able to address all the issues or the challenges, I would say, the industry has been facing for the last several years. So at some point of time, ICMA actually just stepped back and then thought about what will it take for us to really just lay down a strategic vision on what we want to accomplish over the period of time rather than just looking so tactical. Because we always strongly believe that the opportunities comes first, which if you don't really tap into it, it becomes a challenge, which becomes too tactical. So one of the reasons why we actually just wanted to do that is to ensure that we actually stay proactive and then want to tap into the opportunities before it becomes a challenge, and that's how the vision plan actually got rolled out. DK did talk about a little bit on how the industry growth has been in the last several years, and last year has been the historical best, and so far this year has been great. And we have a good reason to believe that we would be able to really realize the vision of what ICMA has laid out in 2021, being the second largest industry by 2030. And we don't want to really just measure the growth by numbers. We want to really just measure the growth by tangible contribution, what we bring to the table to the industry as a whole. And if you were to really talk about the tangible contribution, what the ICMA vision plan actually outlines, it's in the context of safety, solutions, and sustainability. And if you were to talk about what we mean by safety, obviously that stays on top of every one of us. We want to make sure that there is literally zero incidents that happens on any of the job site. That means all the people who are part of the equipment operating system is actually going to be safe, and then they would be able to go home safely every day. So safety comes on top of it. That's definitely something which we actually thought as the number one thing what we need to really focus when it comes to the technology roadmap. The second important aspect of it is, DK did talk about the significant amount of aspirations what we as a country is actually putting down, because India is already the 5th largest economy, and there is already a good vision plan laid down by Honorable Prime Minister that we would be the 3rd largest economy in another 3 to 4 years, and I'm sure we would actually just get there sooner than later. But if you want to really look at what is going to be the primary driver, it's going to be the infrastructure development. And ICMA takes pride in actually just saying that we actually play a pivotal role on actually infrastructure development. So when we want to really go fast on infrastructure development, we can't do the things what we used to do in the past. So we want to really just bring in solutions which can help us to be a lot more productive and a lot more efficient. So solutions is definitely the second important pillar of the technology vision document. And last but not the least is definitely going to be the sustainability. We want to make sure that as we actually just take care of the safety and bring in the solutions which can actually just make sure that we are able to improve productivity and efficiency, we are also embracing sustainability. And when we talk about embracing sustainability, we do it in an environmentally responsible manner so that we create a better world for the future generations to come. So these are the 3 major pillars which you would see as part of the broader theme for the technology summit which we have today. And if you were to really just go to the next level, it's also much more holistic, because when we talk about safety, it's not just about the safety of the equipment, because safety has got much broader parameters: the job site safety, and then the equipment safety, as well as the operator safety. And when you really talk about the solutions, it's also not just the solution what I talked about. It has got much broader parameter, because we talk about the durability or the quality of the output to actually the productivity as well as the efficiency. And when we talk about the sustainability, it's not just the energy transition. Energy transition is definitely one aspect of it, and we actually talked about how do we really just embrace sustainability from cradle to death, right throughout the entire life cycle of the equipment, right from the point we actually just design a product to the time when we operate during its entire life cycle to the time actually we just get to the point of the end of life of the product. So we are actually just much more holistic, and this vision document is there to really just outline what we need to do end-to-end holistically on these 3 parameters to ensure that we are just not measuring the growth by numbers, but we are actually just measuring growth by just what we actually tangibly do to the industry in the coming years. And CE industry, one thing for sure all of you know, is pretty diverse, and it has got different categories of equipment serving diverse customer segmentations, and all of them are at differing levels of maturity. And the ultimate objective of today's summit is to really just make sure that we all actually put the collective wisdom of all the broader stakeholders present here, and then laid out a roadmap on how we would actually just encourage adoption of all these technologies in the coming years over the different segmentations of the customer, by virtue of which we would be able to achieve the bold goals, what was outlined as part of the safety, sustainability, and solutions. And ultimate objective of this to really just realize the vision of the technology roadmap, which says that to promote the usage of cutting-edge technology through sustainable, safe, and smart solutions to shape India's tomorrow. ICMA definitely takes pride in shaping India's tomorrow, and it's just a enhancement of the resolution of how we want to really shape India's tomorrow is what is going to be determined at the end of this CE Technology Summit. And I definitely thank each and every one of you who have been really part of this extensive work over the last several months, including our knowledge partner PwC, to get to where we are today. And this is not the end of where we are going to get to, but this is just the beginning of the new chapter, and which is going to really just lay down the transformational path of progress for the CE industry, like what DK said. I would say this is a point of inflection for the CE industry, by virtue of which we would definitely get the lot of catalyst behind us to really just not only get to have the ability to augur the infrastructure development in the country, but also reposition India as actually a global hub for actually just manufacturing and exporting the products and services. And I definitely thank you for all of your engagement, and I look forward for your continued engagement in the coming days. Thank you.
Our guest of honor today is none other than Sri Vijay Mittal, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Heavy Industries, Government of India. We are truly honored to have you here, sir.
Good morning to you all. Dear Krishnanji, Vivekanandji, Deepakji, Soni Saab, and all my friends in the audience. First of all, let me thank you all for inviting me to this technology summit because I am a firm believer that since I am a late entrant into this whole system, such events and listening to such stalwarts in their respective field also give me an opportunity to learn about the industry, their problems, and what in our own capacity working in the government system, how can we help you all out there so as to help the nation with a larger goal. In fact, I can see Saurabh Dalila Saab also in the audience just now. I had a look on them. So that's a great sign. ICAT director is also sitting here amongst us. So, as I said, I'm not an expert on the subject, but yes, sometimes it happens that a person who is not an expert has got a much independent view, which may be to someone's liking, maybe to someone's thought-provoking, for the reason that an aspect may come out from such discussions which might not have been thought by the experts who have grown up into a field with a certain background. So, first of all, I want to give congratulations to you all for bringing out such a comprehensive documents, the outlines of which I could go through. And I find it's quite a comprehensive document which certainly contains quite a measurable kinds of targets for ourselves, and also taking industry from where it is today, or it was in 2021, and what we foresee as policy makers, that where is it going to be there in 2035, and how as government we can support or give catalyst, act as a catalyst to you, or provide necessary supports or interventions which can actually help all of us in reaching those targets which we have planned for ourselves in 2035. So, if we talk of the ministry as a support to the industry, construction equipment industry, like we all understand, when we say capital goods is being looked after by Ministry of Heavy Industries, CE industry is one of the 10 sectors which we normally interact with in our day-to-day functioning when we talk of capital goods. And I am very happy to note actually that capital goods industry is one of those industries which has come up very fast in the recent past, and has very firmed up plans to reach where they want to. And why I'm saying so is because all of the 10 industry representatives I have been meeting on and off, and one of the point which I have been raising before them, that like Government of India has come out with a vision 2047, or with an intermediate vision of 2030 or 2025 as well, does each of these industry has its vision document where they want to reach in 2030, 2040 or 2047? And what are the key points identified during this journey envisaged, that how they would look to for a support from Government of India, or for the support from any other stakeholders, which need to be tackled well in advance to reach to those levels where we really want to. So as we all are aware, Ministry of Heavy Industries has got a mandate for looking after the complete auto sector and then capital goods sector, apart from heavy electrical sector, which is one of the component of capital goods industry also in real term, and then administering some of the CPSEs. So we have come out with the PLIs in terms of PLI Auto, then PLI ACC, which you all are aware. They are quite a big the PLIs of Government of India with lot of the investment from government side. And we are always happy to share with our industry friends that PLI Auto was the first to come out, and Ministry of Heavy Industry itself was the first to come out in terms of PLI, or creating a concept of PLI successfully, which is now into the phase of execution, and we are anticipating that from this year onwards, there will be some industries who will be claiming even the incentives after their gestation periods are over. So having taken the clue from what PLI Auto did, many other industries and ministries rather, they came out, and we have 13, 14 PLIs today running in different phases. Ministry of Heavy Industry also in its second part, when they came out with PLI ACC, the whole of the PLI could not be distributed among the industry partners. So we are also coming out with a round 2 of PLI ACC for our cell manufacturing, with the leftover 20 gigawatt hour distribution to the new industry. But as I said a little while ago, such concepts brought out that how can we look for such type of concepts spread over other industries, which can help again in reaching our mission. And CE industry obviously is one of them where such thoughts have started getting generated, and have started getting shapes, so as to ensure that government can also support or contribute in its own manner for the vision which we have created ourselves for the year 2035. But other than that, Ministry of Heavy Industries has also always been working on creating or enhancing competitiveness within the capital goods industry, as we always say it. And we came out with a scheme of capital goods phase 1, then we came out with a scheme of capital goods phase 2 also. And one fact, even those who are aware of this scheme may not be aware of, is that we were surprised to know that when we designed an outlay of say 1200 crore rupees, out of which 975 crore rupees were to be contributed by Government of India and rest 20% was to come from the industry, it is to our pleasant surprise that industry has come forward in a bigger manner, and the scheme outlay, by virtue of higher contribution by industry, more than 20% in certain cases, the scheme outlay on its own has crossed 1300 crore. So this is something which is very, very motivating for us, that while we thought that we will find it difficult for the industry to contribute even 20% for any R&D project, industry themselves has come with the proposals of contributing more than 20% on their promising projects of R&D. And this has led to a situation wherein we ourselves are surprised that the scheme outlay which was designed for 1200 crore is becoming more than 1300 crore. And when we talk of technology, we are really talking of that how to evolve a technology, because we understand technology cannot be learned, technology cannot be transferred, technology cannot be purchased actually. The technology, as your vision document also says, sustained technology will be that which is evolved by ourselves. And evolved technology will take us far ahead in terms of not only our own envisaged goals for this country, but becoming an export hub or the global hub, as one of our previous speakers also said. So before coming to this function, I was just discussing with some of our friends, and I was saying the same thing, that can we have one of our target, which is very much foreseeable after understanding from them, that we are a net exporter of capital construction equipments in the near future, as early as possible, with some yearly targets defined in between through this technology mission document, which will prove our realistic approach to this whole document. And today, Ministry of Heavy Industry, through its both the schemes, have sanctioned more than 200 projects of technology. Many of them are linked to advanced robotics, advanced machining, automation, Industry 4.0, and conventional machines as well, converting standard machines into smart machines with minimum of the investment for best of its lifetime productivity or efficiency purposes. So such projects, when converted into commercial systems, will certainly add in their own manner to our vision of this technology roadmap for construction equipment, because technology per se is not for any equipment or for any industry. It is a technology which can, it is a job on the part of innovators to look for that how that technology can now become fruitful for a particular industry. Say, for example, when we talk of wherever I go, I find that there are many appreciations, especially for our summer centers, which we have created. 4 summer centers which Ministry of Heavy Industries has created all over the country, which are working as a good demonstrative centers for automation in the productionization of many things, or in the automation of any equipment, machine, or a moving equipment as well. So we find that they are a technology demonstrator. So we thought, okay, let's go to the next level, converting this technology demonstration into pilot implementation, so that we create some use cases. So we have now sanctioned 10 more summer centers to one of our summer center to create its 10 branches all over the country in hub and spoke model, wherein someone who wants to learn about any industry doesn't have to come back to either Pune, Bangalore, or Delhi for that matter. He will have a summer center maybe in his state or somewhere near him within a radius of 500 kilometers or so, so that he can learn from there how to implement such automation systems into his own industry in his own manner as MSMEs. We have also created some of the CEFCs now on industrial hubs, wherein where many of the MSMEs can go and do their required operations, whether it is linked to 3D printing, whether it is linked to 5-axis CNC machines or VMCs or conventional or CNC lathes, and on a per hour or a per day basis, and get their operation done themselves, rather than investing into a capital expenditure which is not within their range to start with. So these such common engineering facility centers shall also go on a big way to help those industrial clusters to carry out their jobs, identified jobs, and rest of the jobs they can do in their industry, and that is how they'll become independent. So that's another. Then, as I said, we are also creating some of the use cases by converting some machines, a project which has been sanctioned to Indian Institute of Science, Summer Center, saying that, okay, you can come up with MSME, they will contribute a minimum of 20% in their respective for upgrading or for converting their conventional machine into a smart machine. And rest of the 80% is given by the government through IISC. And if his conventional machine is converted into a smart machine, he can for himself understand what was the advantage, so that he can also think of converting rest of the machines. And Indian Institute of Science as a institute, as a R&D institute, generates a lot of data to convince all the stakeholders that they need to convert their conventional systems to automated systems as a part of Industry 4.0 to not only upgrade themselves but also become competitive nationally or globally, as we always talk. So one suggestion, one request to all my industry friends would be that they should also be looking for such opportunities to participate into this scheme in terms of either as a PIO, as we say, project implementing organization, through a project implementing organization contributing their bit, and getting support of Government of India in some of the development systems, which could be very specific to construction equipment industry per se. One more point which I thought I must bring out to this, though I said it in the very beginning, that this export-import balance also needs to be covered up as early as possible, becoming an export hub, because you all may be aware that of late you might have seen that Government of India is giving a lot of stress over Atmanirbharta, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and those type of words we always hear. So that Atmanirbharta will come only by not identifying that, okay, I am making an equipment out of which 70% is indigenous, but we'll also have to go to the fact that the 30% which is not indigenous is actually indispensable part of that equipment, and whoever OEM is supplying that 30%, if he stops, he can actually stop my industry or my production unit or this thing. So that's very dangerous. So what is important is that we give our sufficient stress, not in terms of only value, but developing that technology which is not available in the country, and then how becoming Atmanirbhar in real terms. So there are two aspects of this import-export balance. One is in terms of value. As we understand today, the gap has come down, say merely to 0.5 billion or 0.6 billion per se. We are a net importer of 0.6 billion in terms of construction equipment industry. But at the same time, the important aspect is that those items which are getting imported, why we cannot manufacture them ourselves so that they help us in developing next generation or next level of construction equipment loaded with automation and all. So as we say, when there is a concept when we say that there are two partners, so they interchange their equipment manufactured in the same, even in 50-50 terms, just to prove that each one of us is independently competent and capable of manufacturing this equipment itself. It is for the benefit of both the organizations that we have come together. So that's one part. Secondly, my initial talks and the thoughts which have come to my mind will not be complete if I just don't touch upon the part of skilling. So once we are going, we need a lot of skilled manpower, obviously. So technology in isolation will not move forward if we are only thinking of construction equipment industry with not sufficient manpower, skilled manpower available to us. So again, Government of India, through this enhancement of capital goods scheme, is working in two ways. One is how to develop the qualification packs, which will certify that yes, one individual or one professional is competent to handle a job what he has been asked to. And we are working with all our four line councils who are responsible for manufacturing, for creating or for developing qualification packs in the field of automation or automotive industry or electronics instrumentation industry and CE industry, with 100% support to them to develop such qualification packs. So that's the part of qualification development. But at the same time, our all CEFCs have also got a component of skilling, wherein we say that, okay, just to self-sustain on a reduced minimum type of charges each CEFC is given responsibility to teach or to upgrade skills or enhance skill of those professionals who come to that institute. And again, one of the success case, since I belong to this ministry, I would like to quote is the Welding Research Institute created by Messrs. BHEL, and wherein they have come up with their 6-spoke model as well, with their main model, main institute being in Trishnapalli. And they have targeted that today they are doing roughly 2,000 students a year who can go into the level 2, 3, 4 of QPs in terms of welding compatibility, whether it's a friction welding or robotic welding or all other types of advanced welding systems. They'll soon be, they have been asked or mandated to reach a target of 5,000 welders per year. And I am told these welders don't only serve within the country, but they have demand in nearby the countries as well, in terms of high-end projects of whether it's a thermal power plant or whether they are other steel plants and manufacturing, big manufacturing plants. So skilling part, when we have created such institutes, we request our industry partners to approach these institutes. The details would be available with us, or Director Capital Goods Industry is here with us. He would always be happy to associate with the industry to share such details which work for the advantage of the investments which Government of India has created. So I thought it will be a good opportunity for me to share some of those details in terms of thought process of Government of India, and I am very happy to note the such kinds of promising document being created by ICMA, the first of its kind, I must say, in the 10 industry association which I myself associate with during the whole exercise. And one of the vision of MHI which we have targeted for the year 2047 is to take capital goods industry from present 1.8% GDP to 2.8% GDP. And I am sure capital goods construction equipment industry is going to be a big contributor to help us, because sometimes we get feelers that we are even struggling to keep ourselves at that much of a present level. The level tends to go down rather than tends to go up. So it will be a big support to MHI in maintaining its own vision, which has been mandated by Government of India. And in the end, I again want to thank you all for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with all of you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Shri Vijay Mittal, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Heavy Industries, Mr. Vikas, my colleagues Dimitrov, Vivekanand, Mr. Vipin Sondhi. Vipin, as you know, is a legend of our industry. My industry colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, this is indeed a noteworthy initiative by ICMA to have the first CE Technology Summit for the construction equipment industry. The Indian CE industry today, as you all know, is the world's third largest, and it's an important enabler for the vision of infrastructure-led growth for our country. It is very heartening to see the progress all around us, whether new highways, airports, logistics hubs, and every time when we visit any of these facilities. I was at the new Bangalore airport yesterday, and I was just reminiscing that on my first trip, maybe almost 25 years back, while leaving the country, one felt so bad about the facility that we had. And now I feel that anybody coming to India would feel a bit ashamed to see the facilities that they have back in the country versus the infrastructure which is being created across the country. And it's very important to note that the government has created various opportunities for our industry through the focus on infrastructure. Our industry is fully aligned with this vision and has invested significantly in technology over the years. It is indeed going to be a very positive disruption as we speak. As has been mentioned by my industry colleagues, the construction equipment industry in India is at par with other industries such as automobile and commercial vehicles. But I would like to go one step forward. I think many times the construction equipment industry probably has not got the recognition that it deserves. We became the third largest much before the automobile industry made that progress. Obviously, the volumes are less, but the importance that this industry, important role that this industry plays in nation creation, whether it is in the infrastructure, whether it is in the defense infrastructure today, which is very relevant, I think is very important. Also, when I speak about this, I want to mention the significant investments which has been made in the last few years is not only on the creating the capacity, but more importantly, with focus on alternate fuels, the digital technology, the product efficiency, and the safety in the recent years. The manufacturers in India today are producing machines which are getting exported all around the world. I'm sure all of you are aware that as an industry, we are today proudly exporting to more than 130 countries around the world. And when we talk about Atmanirbharta or Make in India, around Make in India for the world, I think this industry is an embodiment of that vision that the Honorable Government has set. People who are interested in trivia, I want to mention that recently the Formula One race, which was taking place in Singapore or in Silverstone, it was moved around by telehandlers manufactured and supplied by the industry from India. I can go one step forward. Last year when the Oscars awards were given, the statues were moved around by machines supplied by us. So it is very heartening when you travel around the world to see more and more machines which are manufactured in India. Here again, versus the automobile industry, I want to mention that while the exports normally in the automobile industry has been more focused on Latin America or Africa or the countries in Southeast Asia, this year the largest number of exports of construction equipment from India is going to go to North America. And this is something which has to be recognized. And it also supports the fact that the quality of the product which is manufactured, the technology which is provided through the machines that we produce is second to none. In fact, I am aware that the quality standards at some of the factories of the companies in India are much better than what you see in the Western world. So it's I think a huge commitment and the progress that the industry has made over last few years. If you talk about the technology front, here again I want to say that this industry was one of the leaders in implementation of IoT. Probably the IoT-based interface that we had on the construction equipment came in much earlier than the automobile industry. Today, many of us have seamless connect with the machines, which maybe the machine is working in Mizoram or in Kanyakumari, we can connect with the machine. So I think the industry has taken some of these steps. Also, I'm reminded of the fact, sir, that when CNG, we were talking about CNG, the world's first CNG backhoe was launched in India, and it was exported to Russia also. So the industry has been taking steps, and I'm fully aware that the industry is now making huge investments in developing technology, whether it is around electric machines or on the hydrogen side. So in the future years, you will see that the industry is also at the forefront in introduction of new technology. It is heartening to note that ICMA has created the CE Industry Technology Vision Roadmap 2035. This will outline the strategy pathway towards further enhancing safety and sustainability on construction sites through innovation and technology adoption. A well-defined technology roadmap not only boosts competitiveness, but also helps address global challenges and thus making it an important guide for the industry's growth. Mr. Vijay Mittal, you have been our greatest support in the recent times. You have always taken time out whenever we have wanted to come and interact with you. And more importantly, whenever a request has been made, you have put in your personal efforts to see that it is followed through. Sir, you were very humble when you said today that you are not an expert from the industry, but the points that you made were very pertinent. Particularly your point on being a next exporter, I think is a challenge that we take as an industry. And I'm sure in the near future, we'll come back to you with details and data. And also more importantly, as you rightly suggested, creating a roadmap, a vision roadmap of how soon we can be next exporter. Your point on developing technology indigenously, I think is also very important. And particularly your point that you made about being not only looking at the 70%, but also looking at the 30%, and ensuring that we now, as an industry, look at 100% of components being manufactured locally. You brought out not only the business aspect, but you also brought the strategic aspect and how the industry, and we have seen during COVID times, the people who had the shorter supply chain or the supply chain within 10 kilometers or 100 kilometers of the factory were able to support the customers better than those who depended, particularly from one particular country. I think that created a lot of problems. So I think it was a very wise guidance, sir, that you have given. And sir, on the behalf of the industry, I assure you that we'll continue to lead and invest in technology in the years ahead. Towards the end, I would like to compliment the ICMA team led by Director General Seema Gupta for having put this event together. We are all aware of the efforts which have gone through in making this event successful. I'll be missing in my duty if I don't acknowledge the contribution and the vision of my colleague Dimitrov Krishnan. I think technology is something very close to his heart, and he has been leading the technology forum for ICMA. More importantly, I want to compliment him for bringing consensus across the industry on various technology aspects. I still remember that when we were meeting some senior secretaries on one of the particular issues related to emissions, and when the secretary asked that is this the voice of the industry, and we were very unanimously able to tell that this was a consensus across the industry. And I want to compliment Dimitrov for continuously ensuring that there is a consensus on various technology aspects amongst the industry colleagues. The remaining part of the day is action-packed with various panel discussions on job site safety, technology-driven solutions to enhance efficiency, and critically balancing progress and preservation through sustainability. I once again would like to thank everyone for having made the effort to be here with us today. Many of us have also come from outside Delhi to be part of this event. And I once again want to wish you a wonderful day ahead, full of technology, full of excitement. There's so much to do and so much to implement to support our customers, and more importantly, as Mr. Mittal suggested, to be the solution provider for the world. Thank you very much.
May I request the dignitaries on stage to please felicitate Mr. Vijay Mittal for his kind presence today.
So first of all, a very warm welcome to the eminent panelists who are going to be part of the first panel discussion, which rightfully say focuses on safety, which is one of the key pillars of the CE technology roadmap. As always, we as an industry embrace safety as the #1 priority, and we want to really look at how the technology would actually play an important role in ensuring the safety holistically to achieve the bold goal of zero incidents at the job site. And I think that's definitely one of the primary goals. And as we indicated that it's not just about the equipment safety, it's actually an end-to-end safety which talks about the job site safety as well as the equipment safety as well as the operator safety. So it's all of the three parameters is what we would actually deliberate now. And we all know that we have a very diverse segment and end users which really calls for a significant radical difference in approach on how we want to embrace technology to really just embed safety on our equipments as we progress. And there are various parameters which we would actually talk about as we talk about the safety. And it talks about, we will deliberate about the role of technology in safety, and then we will talk about the latest trends, what we have globally as well as with the peer group of industries. And we will talk a lot about the importance of skilling, which has a significant role to play on the operator safety. And we would also talk about how actually the technology can help us on accident prevention and proactive risk mitigation. And we will talk about some of the best practices which is already there, because we do have some proof of concepts and use cases already there in some of the segments which we will deliberate about. And we will talk about what will it take to really just encourage the end users to go for an adoption of the safety practices. And we will also talk about some of the challenges, what we have as an industry, and then how we can actually just deliberate on some collective wisdom to really just overcome those challenges and also talk about a little bit on the regulations aspect of it. And last but not the least, safety is not just about the operational piece of it, it's about the cultural piece of it. And we'll also deliberate a little bit on what will it take to really just bring in a cultural transformation to ensure that everybody embraces safety as their topmost priority. So with that said, over to you to quickly walk through some of the brief technical notes, and then we will go to the eminent speakers for sharing their perspectives.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Vivekanand. First of all, very good morning to everyone. I'm part of PwC. I'm the director in the PwC's transportation and automotive practice. So just from the introduction perspective, I feel very privileged to be here because I feel like coming in full circle also. I worked earlier in the construction equipment industry, even with the likes of Mr. Vipin Sondhi, and also really feel privileged to come in and present in front of you, sir, and with all the esteemed panel members as well. Many of you know me, I also know you. So I think really lucky day for me, I would say that way. Secondly, I would like to thank everyone from the ICMA side also to give us this opportunity to present our thoughts as well as put together this technology vision roadmap along with the overall construction equipment industry in India. So in the next 5 to 10 minutes, I will just quickly walk you through the summary of the kind of recommendations and the guidelines that we have put together on the job site safety dimension. So how do we look at the safety, correct? And as Mr. Vivekanand had said, the safety is more from the dimensions of the three areas that we have thought about. One is operator safety, because as you would have known, the construction sites are a combination of equipment as well as operators. And if you look at from the India perspective, almost 75 to 80% of the sites are rendered which are not safer from the operator's perspective also. So how do we kind of really ensure that there is a operator safety dimension that is driven from the overall job site safety consideration? The second dimension is also equipment safety. So equipment safety is something that is in the hands of essentially, obviously, the operators, but at the same time, how we design the equipment, how do we kind of make sure that it is ready for particular application, and that is the most important kind of a contribution that the CE industry can make also when it comes to equipment safety. And the third is most importantly the occupational safety, like identification of the hazards, making sure that the site is correctly monitored and maintained. So those are the three dimensions under which we have bucketed the safety recommendations. So just to quickly go into each of those, operator safety is more from how do you kind of build a comfortable operator environment. Obviously, when we look at India, the sites are very remote, and as India is growing and we are contributing towards that growth, there is obviously going to be like continuous infusion of new technologies from the operator safety are important from the ergonomic side, visibility side. How do you kind of ensure that the training is correctly deployed for the operators? So that is where we need to really look at how the operator safety from the technology intervention perspective we can look at. And we'll highlight some of those recommendations. Equipment safety, rollover protection of the equipment, the stability of the equipment, making sure that the equipments are structurally sound. There are, from the maintenance perspective also, the equipments are very easy to access and serve the equipment also. So that is the equipment safety dimension that we need to look at. And occupational safety, as I mentioned, like the availability of the basic PPE kits and communication between the machines and operators, how effectively that can be done. So that's where this overall safety picture can actually come together in terms of how do we kind of bring all these three dimensions together. Now, moving on to the just quick view of, we keep on saying that we are not at par on the regulations with the global, but really what is the picture? And we also map where the safety regulations are globally versus what is it in India, correct? When it comes to on-road safety, we really have good regulations. We have excellent coverage across equipment and operator. And off-road in the mining segment also there is a clear regulation dictated by DGMS. the only segment that we see where is off-road, which is non-mining, where there is not much of a regulation, and obviously it becomes a little tricky to how do you manage that kind of a environment, correct? And when you look at the job site safety perspective, from the India side, obviously there is not clear kind of a guideline or recommendations. There are certain guidelines when in the road construction segment, those are defined, but not across all segments. So how that can impact essentially the job site safety dimension is very crucial to understand, and that regulation is not there. So in summary, actually, I think the job site regulations are something that will kind of form the basis for pivoting those regulations to the equipment level also. So that is one area there probably ISEMA and the government bodies can work together to see if we can bring in the job site safety as one of the dimensions. And on the off-road, which is beyond mining, how do we kind of bring in some of the regulations in that area? Moving on, in terms of how does this technology solutioning will evolve in the safety side, we feel there are 4 major buckets across which it could evolve. One is the advanced operator assistance system. So how do you kind of enable operators to do their job better? Something on the lines of like what you would have seen in the new vehicles it is coming up, which are ADAS systems, correct? Advanced driver assistance systems. So on the similar lines, can you enable operators of the machines to be able to deliver their job more effectively? How the data is collected properly so that the decisions can be really made based on the previous historical performance. So that's where advanced operators assistance systems become paramount important. How do you leverage the augmented and virtual reality? Because planning the job site really and essentially envisioning some of the risk areas well in advance through AR/VR interventions and like virtual walkthroughs of the sites. Can that be brought in as a solution beyond trainings also? Because AR/VR is now being leveraged into the training aspect, but can you do it beyond that in terms of the site planning as well? The third dimension is the interoperability. So safety critical systems need to talk to each other also. So because when the construction equipment site is, when the construction site is coming together, there are multiple equipment that are kind of working at the same site. So how do these equipment talk to each other and essentially able to kind of understand if there are certain hazard areas that are kind of or certain equipment are not performing well, the other equipments are able to catch that signal and essentially perform basis coordinated actions, correct? So that's the interoperability dimension. And the last one is most important, safety accessories. So how can we provide operators with the right safety gear? Now you would have seen there are a lot of health monitoring devices that are coming up as a kind of embedded into the safety clothing and all. So can that be looked at as a parameter which can also help kind of communicate with the machines, and in case there is certain kind of alarm, let's say operator is having high blood pressure or operator is not in a right frame of mind to work on that particular equipment. So that information needs to be passed to the operator as well as to the control tower. So through that, safety accessories can also be kind of looked into from the technology intervention perspective. So what we have tried to do also along with the various ISEMA members, we had multiple discussions. We looked at globally as well, what are these technologies kind of coming together, how it is evolving. And basis that we have created a guideline roadmap. It is not like everyone has to mandatorily adopt this. This is more like a guidance kind of a roadmap over a short, mid and long term that we have prepared. So like from now to 2027 is a short term that we are talking about. 2027 to 31 we are talking about midterm, and 31 to 35 is the long term. So when you look at this, there are certain technologies which are easily available and accessible for all of us. Can we really look into adopting those technologies, like such as visual alarm systems? Cameras around the equipment, then safe load indicators. Those are some of the things that can be possibly deployed sooner than later. Proactive safety systems, stability control of the equipment, making sure that the equipment is kind of in the having the certain sensors which are allowing it to capture the anti-tipping moment and all that. Then there are obviously in the midterm what you can look at is that technologies such as virtual site walkthroughs. There are operator health monitoring technologies that can be looked at in the midterm. And in the long term, obviously, there could be some semi-autonomous technologies that could come in the picture, such as some of the operations of the can be taken over by the machine automatically. So, like automated guided digging cycle, or like the continuous material removal at a particular site when the material is already accumulated at that point of time. So, there are certain solutions that can be built up as a part of the overall long-term roadmap also. So based on that, what we feel is that this is again a guidance roadmap from the safety perspective when it comes to technology adoption. There could be obviously every individual organization can decide what best can be offered to really with a larger goal of overall improvement of the operator and job site safety. And basis that the calls can be taken by the organizations. And lastly, what we see is that how do you bring it together? And because recommendation is one thing, but really how do you deploy it? That's the most important part. And for that, there needs to be a sound regulatory framework. When it comes to regulatory framework, the most important is like operators. We need to be having trained operators operating the machines. So how do you bring those trained operators through a license mechanism? Can it be a new operator license as well as operator renewal mechanism that can be created? Standardized safety guidelines at job site. Those are more important because those guidelines will ensure that everyone follows those guidelines, and obviously that requires some amount of kind of inspection and auditing from the government side. But there is, if that can be created along with the government, then definitely that could create the framework and the baseline for really following the safety guidelines. Then governance and enforcement. Obviously, that's what I was speaking about. Like, how do you assess the site safety, equipment safety? How do you work with some of the insurance providers to really create the solution from the liability perspective and be able to kind of penalize some of the wrong behaviors? So that's the government and enforcement. The skilling is most important dimension. Obviously, technology, both from the operator and the technician's perspective, how the skilling can be enhanced from the kind of solutions that are coming up into this equipment, correct? Because the equipment are going to be more and more tech savvy. And as Mr. Deepak Shetty said, that IoT integration has happened into the construction equipment industry way ahead of automotive industry. So, but do we have the skill set or the technicians ready in the field to really address the complexities of those solutions that are getting evolved? So that needs to be looked at also. And the last one is the enabling infrastructure. So localization, as we were talking in the previous session, are the sensors that we are talking about, can those be localized? Can those be frugally engineered so that those can be adopted in India at a cost-effective manner? Because obviously we have to sell at a different price points compared to the global price points in India. So how do you bring that in and bring the local solutions through the partnerships and ecosystem of the startups and academia over here? So that's what can be looked at from the enabling infrastructure perspective. And the last slide here, I wanted to just quickly cover how do you kind of go ahead with this. And this is what we brainstormed in the Chennai summit that we had 2-3 weeks ago. Like maybe we can follow some of the execution steps to really bring it together. So most importantly, what we came across is that operator skilling and licensing becomes important. So how do you collaborate with the ISCs of the world or ISCs of the India? And also like collaborate with the ITIs and polytechnics to create dedicated programs for operators and the technician trainings, and create the right compliance structure for the enforcement of the regulations. So that's where I think we need to work with the government bodies and the ministry to really build that compliance structure. So that is what we feel is that can be coming, we can bring it together as an industry body to really drive this home and make sure that we are more safety compliant, and the Vision 2035 we're talking about, like no equipment related accidents or incidents that should happen. So this can be the stepping stone towards that. So I'll stop here and thank you very much for your time. Appreciate Vivekanand sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Yogesh, for giving the brief note for setting the context for the discussions with the panelists. So, again, as Yogesh talked about, safety is much more comprehensive, and for us to really just get to embrace safety, we need to make sure that we are actually engaging with the broader stakeholders, which is pretty much the policymakers, the industry, end users, and also some of the solution providers. And I think that's one of the reasons the panel composition is actually done the way it is supposed to ensure that we get a comprehensive viewpoint as we lay down the roadmap to really just get technology enabling safety. So with that said, I would first start with Saurabh. Saurabh, because you have been part of both sides, right? One is you have been part of the industry in the past, and you are now part of the policy maker side of it. So I think you definitely have a much more broader insight on what we as an industry have as a challenge, as well as what as a policy maker think through on how they want to find a solution. So with that said, my question, Saurabh, to you, you have been part of the ICMA safety and emission roadmap in the past, and you've also seen the progress. And in that context, I'm sure you have your own thought process on what is the importance of safety in the construction industry, and then the role of technology which plays on the importance of safety. And last, the second point is, what are those technologies that have gained traction in the recent past in the Indian construction equipment industry, and how do you really envision the future?
Thank you, Vivekanandji. I think we've been talking about this subject of safety on the construction equipment machines since quite some long time. Typically, the first things that we have achieved in the past is the enforcement of ISO 20474, or we call it AIS 160, which came in 2 phases, and still lots to be achieved, because I'm expecting the phase 3 also. I think everybody would be expecting that by 27 or 28 or something. But I think talking on the safety subject, 2 parts: operator safety and equipment safety. And in both the cases, we're talking about, when we talk about operator safety, we're talking about the skill, and which is again unregulated here. Although it takes a lot of experience to operate such machines, but then still it's pretty much unregulated in our country. And also on the machine safety, we are partially governed because of the tire systems and non-tire machines. So it's a partial governance. Now, coming on to the technologies that are available, definitely we have, I think this industry has been creating a record in the sense that it's always been ahead of the automotive industry. If we were to see in a very critical manner, everything has been much before the automotive industry, be it telematics, be it being the number 3, as I think Deepak ji said today. So it's everything. And also when it comes to the future, remote machines, autonomous machines, they would be first coming to this industry, and I think automotive would follow it later. So technology is going to play a big role in this, the second part of the question. And if we have this case thing which is connected, autonomous, shared, and I think this industry would get prior to automotive industry. We will have concepts by the time on fatigue detection. We would have concepts like drowsiness detection, which are already being discussed in the automotive, but far beyond any implementation. But I think this industry can implement it much faster. Telematics came to this industry. Again, it was never mandated by the government, it just came. Government is still running for the automotive industry to ensure that there is a common algorithm, there is a common language which is spoken amongst the automobile market. But this industry is very much ahead of that. But still, the critical part to this is that we are partially unregulated, or let's say we are partially regulated. And this is where the concept of my favorite subject, and that is the CMM Equipment Act, which we have been talking. Some ministry someday will have to take it up. Only then most of the slides that Yogesh just now showed would be covered, because there needs to be some ownership for that. I think that's an area which is a little worrisome, because by such time it should have been in our country, but for various reasons it's not. 25 years from today, we will be a self-certification country for sure. So we have to pass this hurdle, and if we don't, then we'll probably miss things in series one by one. So I think we should be putting this to force, that the CMM Equipment Act should come and skill gets an umbrella. Skill becomes a subset of this. Safety becomes a subset of this. Sustainability becomes a subset of this. And the technology trends that uniformly this industry can actually drive much faster than the automotive market would get a priority. So that's in a nutshell that I would like to say on this. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Saurabh, for your views. I think there are three key takeaways what I can take from what you said. One is definitely there has been a good amount of progress that has been made, which is in the context of the phase 1 and phase 2, and then, of course, the phase 3 in the future coming days. So definitely there is a progress made, but we still have a long way to go. The second one is you definitely touched upon the product. What we have has got the best of the technology, which is actually going to be the foundation on which actually the technology-enabled safety features can be built upon. So I think that's definitely a big opportunity. And the last important point, what you touched about, is obviously safety is an attribute. It's not a variable, because job site doesn't operate with one kind of equipment. It operates with a host of equipment. And we can't embrace safety in bits and pieces, and we need to be holistic, and for which we need a holistic mechanism, which is what is the SEM Act. And I think that's definitely a great point. And thanks, Saurabh, for sharing your perspective. So with that, I would actually now move on to Mr. A.K. Swamy and IRC. And IRC is an advisory body which actually has a very closer interaction to the end user, and it was sort of a connect between the end user and then the equipment industry. So how do you really just look at the significance of safety in construction project, and then the need for, what do you see as a need for continuous improvement in safety measures? That's number one. And number two is, where do you think we can actually have a continued collaboration and innovation in ensuring the safer construction sites in India?
Hello everybody. Thank you for having IRC on board. Essentially, like if you look at road sector, that's like IRC concerns a lot. We are looking at like really large number of employees, like say going up to 70, 80 million employees, of which like around 80% is unskilled. Like this is as per the recent statistics. With that, like yes, like we have a really large number in terms of growth rate, and then the GDP part, like I say, almost 4,000 billion rupees as far as 2023 is concerned. Yes, GDP wise, like we are doing really well, like hovering around 15%, which is much more than other countries when it comes to the civil engineering construction industry, which is contributing to the GDP part. Yes, so that's where like with that, like we have an issue where say across the world, like if you look at the number of accidents, we are at a sorry figure. Basically, we boast about second largest network of roads after US, but at the same time, in terms of number of accidents, like we are putting a really sorry figure. That's one concern like, which is having, yes, like say some states where the reports are coming, where say in terms of accident rates is on higher side, but if you look at some states where like it's underreporting, which is happening. So that's where like one concern, like if you look from IRC perspective, where say underreporting, that's something which is concerned, like when we are looking at the highway sector after it's open to general public. But now if you look from the civil engineering construction perspective, that's where like the concern comes, where say we are trying to push to the limit, be it in terms of the equipment or the workforce on ground, and then the end user like who is already exposed, like which is something unique when compared to other sectors. Factories, like it's insulated, like where like we don't have people like who end user is not exposed straight away. But here, like we are most of the time we look at the end user, be it a two-wheeler or four-wheeler, coming on road where the construction is going on. Often we see like a lot of accidents which is happening. That's something where say IRC is a bit concerned. Where say there is a couple of panels, and then recently one initiative was taken up where say the road safety audit That's where like it's part of any highway construction which is going to be taken up. Where like there will be a set of people who are actually trained in road safety audit. They take up this work and then take it further, and then like they report like any violations and what are the remedial measures, so on. But now this is something which is after the construction is happened, and then like we say some design aspects can be given. But challenge over there like which is happening is like that's something where things are under control, where like we can assume certain behavior from the end user, like that's the driver when somebody is driving. But however, like we say, when it comes to the construction equipment, there is a concern like where, which needs to be looked at, because like the work front is not exactly same. We say with the highway once it's open, or even with any real estate business like or construction going on, the situation remains pretty much same, which is not the case over here. So that's where like, we have an issue where like, from the IRC perspective, that kind of data is not available straight away. Basic underreporting from the police records, whatever, that's happening. But when it comes to actual construction sites, the data which is required to come up with certain guidelines, we don't have access to it. Like, so that's where like, ISMA can actually come in and give certain data which is available, and then like, so that can help in coming up with the guidelines, development of guidelines. At this particular point, yes, like there are limited guidelines available, mostly for post-construction activities. But at the side of construction, it's not there. Probably the same thing is happening with bitumen sector with Bureau of Indian Standards. I am involved there as well, like, so that's why like we see issue when it comes to the standards, like we don't have those safety standards in place. So often like when we go to site, look at any construction aspect, there are issues like we say personal protective equipment is not there. So once we ask them, like immediately the response from the workforce is, okay, like we are not aware, or like we don't have the guidelines, or like the manager would say, okay, like say, where are the guidelines, give it to us. So that's something where say definitely like is need of the hour, which can be taken up, right? Like, so that's something like we need to look at. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. A.K. Swami, for sharing your perspective, and I can definitely pull out a couple of things what you talked about, which actually outlines how you think about safety on a job site. You rightly said that India has actually got the second largest road network, but if you were to really look at the safety data, we are not at a point where we need to be proud of. We obviously want to be the last, and we are actually just still at the top despite the underreporting. So definitely the safety in job site is definitely a topmost priority of IRC in your thought process. And going back to your second point, which is all about this segment has a significant amount of employment, and large majority of the employment is on unskilled workforce. So definitely skilling is going to be an important, so I will straight away come to DK in the next point. And lastly, what you really want from the industry is the quantum of data that is actually getting generated. And going back to what Saurabh said, this industry is actually very matured in terms of actually just embracing technology and much more advanced. So we do have the foundational elements of technology which is present, and it actually throwing millions and trillions of data as we speak. So that is something which we can potentially just look at how ICMA can actually consolidate and provide as an insight to IRC, so that you can actually just deliberate on what those policy interventions that can be actually brought to the table as part of the job site safety. So thanks for sharing your perspective, and we would definitely take away some of these points and then come back to you. And to you, DK, I think we just talked about the product, and then we talked about the process, what is really just focused on the safety side of it, and now it's all about the people. And I think it leads to, since you are a chairman of IESC and you are a strong advocate of skilling, some of the thought process or the questions to you is, what do you think about the importance of training and skill development for equipment operators and workers? And how do you feel the technology adoption can actually help us to really just embrace safety much more than what we are doing today? And where do you see that we have the areas of improvement and expansion with regard to the training curriculum as well as the infrastructure, which is more the capacity that needs to be built for actually embracing that?
Thank you, Vivek, and thanks to Yogesh for making a comprehensive presentation on the ICMA's technology roadmap, giving a little bit more detail around how we want to look at safety. I want to actually start by referring to the fact that, India's stated goal is to be a developed country by 2047. I mean, to be a developed country, I think the first and foremost thing is about value of human life more than anything else. whatever we might achieve in terms of infrastructure or anything else is not going to be of any value if we cannot increase the value of human life. And I think this is where a cultural and a very paradigm shift needs to happen in our society when it comes to safety. And hence, I'm very glad that in the ICMA's technology roadmap, we have put safety as the number one priority that we want to work, whether it is from equipment safety, operator safety, or job site safety. When it comes to skilling, and one of the biggest challenges in safety enforcement in any field in the country, it is based on actual regulation. It is less based on the fact that safety is a priority. And this is the challenge of our country, that everything is based on a regulation that needs to come. And we wear a helmet if there is a traffic police, collecting fines. I mean, we need to move towards a mindset of safety that's saving human lives, and the human life has a higher value, has to be the starting point. And hence, but unfortunately, we are where we are. We cannot wish away the society that we are part of. It has a history and legacy which we cannot wish away. So hence, I do believe very strongly that regulatory aspects are very critical. And in this area, the biggest gap that we have towards skilling becoming a very, self-sustaining ecosystem is a lack of licensing of operators. Construction equipment in India, there are easily 80 different types of products. And if you add the number of kinds of models, we are talking about thousands of models in an industry which is just 100,000 units in volume. In this huge variety of equipment landscape, we have zero licensing equipment other than a heavy-duty truck license. If you have a heavy-duty truck license, you can operate any equipment, legally speaking, in this country. And this is the biggest challenge towards making skilling into an ecosystem that is self-sustaining. Since there is no demand for license, there is no demand for skilling. And as we know, we will not go after skilling just because we want to improve safety. We are in that vicious cycle of this gap between what we want to achieve as a nation versus where we stand. So this piece needs to be addressed by a clear mandating of licensing requirement for the specific type of operating equipment that is to be used. As a chairman of Infrastructure Equipment Sector Council, this is the biggest challenge that over the last 12 years that IESC has been operating. The biggest challenge for IESC has been able to get people to come into the training class. It's not about not having the training qualification packs or the number of types of equipment we can train on, or even lack of training centers. It is actually our ability to bring operators to come into a classroom and learn. And hence, I believe that one of the biggest things, and ICMA has been championing this cause, we have been taking it to several different bodies. And using this forum, I would also like to appeal, including Indian Roads Congress or many other forums, to actually make the voice even strongly heard for mandating a licensing requirement for the specific type of equipment that operators have to operate. The moment licensing becomes a mandate, skilling ecosystem will automatically have a very, very high value. What has been IESC doing? Of course, IESC, since its inception, has created multiple types of qualification packs for different types of skills, whether it is, that too very specific to the products, and also for different types of job roles. We have focused mostly on level 3 to level 5. And we have been certifying and, doing certifying for prior learning people who have been operators in the field. We have been certifying them, but we've also been working with developing operators from scratch. The way we have been operating is about creating private training centers that are actually accredited for giving the certification through NSDC. And that has been working. We're doing about 20,000 training certifications annually, which is not sufficient, frankly, for the workforce we are talking. You mentioned more than 80 million people are working in infrastructure. In that, roughly around 2 million to 3 million are actually operators who are operating equipment, who are supposed to be skilled. But they are not, they are called skilled probably, but they are not actually skill certified. And hence, obviously, their awareness about safety is much lower. So as ISC, we have been working with multiple training partners. We've been partnering with all the OEMs to support, and OEMs have been doing great work in this regard. We've been using CSR budgets to try and get OEMs to work with these private training partners to actually enroll and train more operators. In the area of using technology to drive safety, it is the use of simulators. I think it was mentioned by Yogesh that using augmented reality, virtual reality, simulator concepts, we can of course test and certify operators as well. By creating unsafe conditions, you can test them how they react. So the possibility of using technology is definitely there. Recently, 3 weeks ago, we had an inauguration of a new training center in Kerala, in Kollam, which was the first, we call it private training center, but it's a quasi-government body. It is called IIIC, Indian Institute for Infrastructure and Construction. And they have started a course for excavator operating for now, and where they have also installed a simulator for, where some of our manufacturers have also supported in setting up their labs and providing training for their trainers. So these kind of setups are coming up, and hopefully we can see more proliferation of this. I would like to use this forum to also appeal to all manufacturers to further, in their own area of influence, to tie up with ITIs, tie up with institutes who are willing to actually take it up. But irrespective of that, I think if there is one thing as a biggest challenge that will continue to be a biggest obstacle for skilling development and improving safety, it is a lack of licensing requirement for operators in our industry. So I would use this opportunity to further reinforce that message, and we continue to work with that to make that happen. Thank you.
Thanks, DK, for the comments. And a few things I can definitely take away from what you just said is India definitely aspires to be a developed nation by 2047, and developed nation doesn't happen without improving the quality of life, and which obviously means that safety is going to be the bedrock of quality of life, and definitely that's an important aspect of it. And you did talk about the challenge of skilling become actually nice to have, which ideally should be a must have, because it's not just in the context of the technological usage of the equipment, but actually more importantly, it's to really do with the safety of the job site as well as the equipment. So it's important to really consider skilling as a must have, and for that you obviously wanted to make sure that skilling becomes mandatory for the equipments that are put on a job site, which is currently not the case. And having said that, we do definitely recognize that there is a capacity that needs to be built in place, and you have said that IESE is actively working on putting that capacity in place by collaborating with the Vocational Training Institute as well as the quasi-government institutes to really do that, and you definitely recommend all the OEs to really just aggressively pursue building that capacity so that when it becomes a mandate, we are ready for it. So thanks, DK, for sharing that perspective. And with that, we will actually go to a couple of equipment manufacturers, and we will start with JCB, Sundaresh, yourself, and because you have been a big player in the industry, and you have also been an early adopter, and we were actually discussing offline when we are having sideline chat that we talk about automotive industry embracing telematics and reaching a particular milestone of X thousand units now, but whereas if you were to really look at construction equipment industry, we are at least like 3x or 4x of what they have reached. So obviously, going back to what Saurabh said, we are an early adopter of technology, and you are also a big early adopter of technology. So what do you see as a potential benefit of these technologies which helped on improved accident prevention and risk mitigation is number one. And the second one is, what are the upcoming trends in safety technologies for construction equipment which you think the industry is getting ready to embrace in the near future?
Thank you. Like you rightly said, the construction equipment has enormously evolved in the last decade. While we are talking about these policies and also on these regulations, the equipment manufacturers like us have been continuously working on new innovation and technologies. And actually, we are making our machines smarter and safer. So from a safety perspective, I should say that technology is a key driver. And like what you mentioned, we are an early adapter and many things are happening. Another thing that we are seeing is, as we talk about all these technologies of digital and also about autonomous machines, they are all converging. The technologies are converging. So from a work side perspective, the key benefit is number one definitely is the safety. It's also about the productivity and efficiency of operations. From a technology perspective, if we talk about first on the operator assistance system, while a autonomous machine is a final aspiration, there are many functions in which we can introduce now so that we can take the benefit. From an operator assistance perspective, there are some of the features which already is introduced, like the proximity sensor or the camera or, the fail-safe braking system. But as we see in, ahead, there are many things which we are in the process, we can implement from a technology perspective on fatigue monitoring, also on the collision avoidance system, stability control. These all requires a much more sophisticated electronics and sensor integration, which can drive more innovation in this area. From a digitization perspective on the telematics, yes, we are forerunners, and from a IoT perspective, the key thing is acquisition of the data, transmission and analysis of the data. From a simple thing like a location and the status of the machines, we are at a stage where we can take it through predictive and also doing some proactive diagnostics on those machines. From a digitization perspective, other thing we can do, which will come up, is the connecting of the people and the machines at a work site. This will bring a lot of, again, efficiency in the operations, where a remote staff or from a site, we can do the traffic control much better, streamline, and also understand the location of each of the equipment and the usage of the equipment. From a complete technology perspective, the fully automated machines that, using the function of LiDAR as a sensor or IMU and also on the GPS location to make that happen. We can also introduce the geofencing so that the whole site is covered and then the machines are within the site. Also, when we talk about autonomous or self-autonomous, each of these machines have to talk to the other machines or the autonomous machines in the site. Then from a remote perspective, it becomes extremely productive because the operator is not on the machine. So from a safety perspective, and also he is completely taken out of this vibration, noise, and the other safety-related issues. So that brings immense amount of productivity into the system. So when we talk about all these upcoming technologies, the key thing is the interoperability. That we talked about it. We need to have a strong communication protocol so that all the autonomous machines can talk, get the data, and make the whole site much more efficient. So from my perspective, along with the safety, there is an immense amount of productivity opportunity, and also on the efficiency of the site operation, that the end user can benefit. So we have to look at the cost and also the customer demand from that perspective. But I see there is a huge potential, not only from a safety perspective, from multiple angles in which we can do this technology. And like what you rightly mentioned, from a skill development perspective and also from a new innovation perspective, this is a great opportunity for the country.
Yeah. Thanks, Sudaresh, for sharing your thoughts. And few things definitely that came to light when you spoke about is when you talk about embracing, say, technology for safety, it not only improves safety, but it also improves productivity as well as the efficiency, which is definitely a big value add. And I know we talked about the challenges of customer adopting safety norms. And if you were to really just give that value story on top of improving safety, there is an element of productivity and efficiency that also improves. That is definitely going to be a big winner for embracing that. The second one, you talked about how this technology is actually helping us to have a lesser dependency on skill set. And now, as much as we talk about skilling as an important aspect, we should also really look at how do we really just embed that safety aspects in the equipment, which can actually help us to be de-scaling. right? So that's also the good dimensions what you brought to the table. And the third thing what you really just talked about is it's not just about, it's a maturity curve on the technology. So it's not just about looking at what the mission is doing in and day out and how we can use those data set to prevent safety incident as well as any other aspects that can go on a job site. You also talked about how this can be built upon to really go for prediction and then condition monitoring and so on and so forth. So I think definitely those are definitely some of those maturity which can actually bring to the table, which will not only actually enhance the safety of the job site, because as you rightly said, job site is not just about one mission, it's about a complex operating system. And you also talked about the interoperability, the communication between the various missions, which will eventually ensure the overall safety of the job site. So thanks for sharing that perspective, and we would definitely take it forward. And with that, I would actually just turn it to Reggie Jose. And I know you represent Caterpillar, which has got the broadest of the product line serving multiple segments. So from your point of view, what are the common challenges hindering the widespread adoption of technologies in various industry segments? That's number one. And the second is, what are those some of the examples of successful implementation of safety technology in some of the projects on job sites, what you know in different applications?
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Vivek and ICIMA, for the opportunity. Before I go into the challenges, let me just look at the positives, kind of echoing what Saurabhji was mentioning. Just look at our industry at a macro level. You have most OEMs who are pioneers in technology, willing to adopt or innovate to bring in as much technology into the framework, much ahead of the automotive industry. Look at the policymakers or the regulators on the other side. MORTH, as a regulator, is close on heels with the industry as well as the associations to catch up with us and run along with us. You have DGMS on the other side from a mining perspective, where they're more proactive. And in some of the instances when I work with them, I realize that they're far ahead of their time when I look at the global regulators as such. So you have OEMs who are trying to innovate, bring the best of things to the table. You have regulators who are also not very far behind. They're close on our heels. Look at the other side. Government on the other side has done a lot to invest in testing development facilities across India. On the fourth side, look at the stakeholders. How often do we go back to Quarry Owners Association or mining companies, institutional customers, to ask them, are you okay with CMVR Phase 1 adoption, CMVR Phase 2 adoption? Are you okay with Circular 06 of 2020? Do we ask them that? We don't ask them that, right? They embrace whatever has been recommended by the industry. They embrace whatever has been told by the regulators. So you have, at a macro level, when you look at it, everything seems to be working very well for that. So those are the positives that come. Now, are we all sitting on a set of positives only? Not really. There are negatives, there are challenges. So what are those challenges? Four things come to my mind. One is from a cost perspective. Look, so as you add safety features onto the machine, the equipment is getting costlier and costlier. To an extent where the affordability is a challenge, especially from a retail customer perspective. So that is one set of challenges. Now, the other aspect, if you look at it from a cost perspective, is DGMS says fit a fatigue monitoring system. Now, unlike in a developed market where you have very few options which align with the requirement, and the customer does not have options to pick from, a fatigue monitoring system in India will cost anywhere between 10,000 rupees to way up to 8 lakh rupees. Now, which of them is the best? We really don't know. It's up to the customer to decide which he wants to fit on his machine. I guess it is because our market is not as mature enough. Now, as we start adopting all these technologies and as we start putting it, over a period of time, the technologies will mature, and that's where the standardization will come. I guess that will happen over a period of time. That's from a cost perspective. Look at the awareness perspective. You have, as you move forward in terms of safety, building in or incorporating safety into the machine, most of it is becoming more telemetry. Most of it is becoming more into digital framework, or it's all telemetry or technology-related components. Now, how much of our customers, especially in the retail space, especially in the rural segment, are they aware of repairing these components, fixing these components, or even operating it or utilizing the benefit of it? Not many. The institutional customers are very fast in picking it up, but not the retail customers. So, as OEMs, we have some sort of a responsibility to scale them up or bring them up to speed so that they are on par with the institutional customers. So that I see as another challenge. The third, regulatory framework. Over the last so many years, we are all talking about certification of the components, the safety components that are involved. How long are we going to do that? With more safety features added and more certification to be incorporated, we are talking about cost of compliance. Now, cost of compliance over a period of time is becoming prohibitively high. We don't have a clear roadmap on how are we going to achieve the self-certification stage. In how many years are we going to have? How many years are we going to use international? How many years are we going to bring in the adoption of the international certification? In how many years are we going to be self-certified? So we don't have a clear roadmap there. So that's an area that we all need to address also by working closely with the government, the ministries, the regulators that are involved. So that's the third gap that I see. Mutual recognition of certificates, that's another area that we need to address. The fourth area is the last mile connectivity. All of you may be recalling when we wanted to bring in low sulfur fuel, government had the auto fuel policy where they clearly outlined how we are going to achieve this. From 300 ppm sulfur to 50 ppm sulfur to 8 ppm sulfur. There was a clear roadmap and it touched upon every segment of India to the last mile. And what the OMCs are going to do, what the regulator is going to do, what the OEMs are going to do, everything was clearly mapped. Somewhere down the road, as we run forward in terms of adopting safety and technology into the system, we need to bring in the policymakers, especially the government, to map how are we going to do it so that it's more inclusive, so that it's more sustainable, and there is an all-round development over it. Thank you.
Thanks, Reggie, for sharing your perspectives, and I can clearly take away 4 things. What you talked about as one of the biggest challenge. One is the cost aspect of it. Because more and more we actually just talk about embedding safety features, and if the customer doesn't really feel the value of it, I know we had other perspective of it. It's not just about safety, it's something which also enables productivity and efficiency. But there are some features obviously which won't actually do all of that, and if the customer doesn't really see value, obviously that will be one of the challenge. And second one is, as much as we talk about the equipments which are actually technologically advanced, we are actually serving a diverse group of end users who are not actually ready to embrace the technology, which obviously means that it's not adding value to the extent what it ideally should add. So that's the second challenge. And then the third one, you talked about the cost of compliance, because we do want to really make sure that we do the right thing, and at the same time, it shouldn't actually have a negative impact on the end users as well as the business, which is the industry here. So, and you are really looking out for what kind of self-certification and mutual recognition of the certification that we need to embrace. And lastly, you talked about a holistic approach. The way what you talked about as the last mile is all about how do we ensure, because this serves as a diverse group of industry, and for us to really just go down the path of embracing everything for everything, and we need to make sure that we are holistic in our approach to ensure that everything gets covered and nothing is left out, to make sure that it is actually practical. So thanks for sharing your perspectives. And this, I would actually just move to Pankaj, because there are 2 things which we talk about. One is what we want to get to, and then the second is how quickly we want to get to. And I think the reason why, Sani, I want to really just hear from you is, obviously we look at US for the benchmark and we look at China for how quickly they get into, and you are a big portion of enabling that infrastructure development there, and you are also actually a emerging player, I would say, in India. So from your perspective, there are a few questions I just have. So one is, how do you really just look at the return on investment aspect of safety technology? How can really the construction companies justify the investment on this technology? And number 2 is, I know it's not just about the short-term benefits, because we also look at the long-term benefits. So what are the long-term benefits which can potentially come along with embracing safety?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. There are 3 questions. And being in the industry over the last 18 years, whether it is with Tata, JCB, or now Sani, always facing to the end customers, either through service route, quality route, or through design route. We have usually seen the failures on the products, failures on the safety aspects of the product, which are leading to the major catastrophe on the job site sometimes, or on the machine or to the operator or to the ground engaging team who is working with the main product. This is the ROI concept, which is the first point, which is related to this. How do you calculate the ROI, which is related to the implementation of safety technologies on the product? And how will you justify it to the customer so that customer can pay you back the amount which is invested in the technology? Or the customer will be able to ask you that particular thing with the machines they are using in the job site. This is one of the most seldom discussed, calculated activity as per the ROI with respect to safety. So I'll just come back with respect to cost of poor quality. We usually calculate this particular thing for the any failure which is associated with the product quality. If we will get into the cost of poor service associated with the product, when we'll get into the product feasibility to launch in the market, whether it is new market or new application, we do a lot of feasibility to get into the development. We do a lot of feasibility with respect to cost. We do a lot of feasibility with respect to the technology involved. However, there is very less amount of importance being given to the safety of the equipment, safety of the operator, and safety of the job sites from the feasibility point of view. However, meeting the legislative requirements, as Mr. Dalela also touched upon this point, and then Reggie also talked about, meeting the legislative requirements with respect to various agencies being imposed or asked as a primary requirement that is being still delivered by the OEMs. However, when we come across through various safety issues on the product at the job site, there's a huge direct and indirect cost associated with that particular product or with that particular organization. I'll just touch upon some of the points through my experience over the time. The investment in the safety technologies can reduce direct as well as indirect cost amounting to more than 1,000 times of the initial investment of that particular technology. Yes, those empirical formulas were not delivered, were not defined earlier, but now it is available. With respect to various case studies, it has been defined across the applications, whether it is mining or construction. The justification point to the ROI, the impact of lack of safety on product or for that matter employee is immeasurable. However, there are plenty of ways to do this. As I said earlier, direct as well as indirect business cost which is associated with the injury, illness and fatalities, which is directly contributing to the bottom line of the organization. This direct cost can be first related to direct material cost of the product which is involved in this particular thing. Then worker compensation, payments, medical expenses, civil liabilities, litigation expenses and property loss. The indirect expenses which are related to delay in project timelines, administrative time, especially investigation and implementation of those solutions after the failure, that is after the corrective action, and cost of other government benefits which are required by the injured worker or the team there. Abrupt loss of skilled worker just after this particular mishap. In addition to this, there is a negative publicity of the organization in the market. The reputation of the company. confidence from investors, suppliers, and the employees, own employees. Sometimes to retain good employees in the organization, we pay high. So this kind of factors gets into the more impactful condition because of such issues. There are many examples in the industries. So since there are good suppliers also sitting here, I can say, who are actually contributing in this journey for the implementation of safety technologies. And yes, this particular method of calculation of entire cost for the implementation of this technology can also be gone through the two routes. The first is the traditional way where we will calculate the direct material cost and the impact on the manpower. Whereas there are the modern technology calculations also, which will take entire cost of poor safety considerations with respect to man, machine, and material in the consideration. Thank you.
Thanks, Pankaj. And I think a couple of points which came out very clearly is, even though we talked about an investment on the safety feature, you did talk a little bit about the cost of quality and then the cost of poor service, which will actually have a near-term and long-term implications, and that's one. And you did actually come out with something which is very important, that investment on technology pays back 1000x times. And you did actually slice and dice it on how it actually has an impact on direct and then indirect, and you gave a much broader perspective. And I would say it's not only direct and indirect what you talked about, you also talked about short-term, near-term, and long-term benefits, what it can really bring up. And I think as an industry, it's important for us to really just make sure that we are able to really just take this to each and every one of the diverse end users to make sure that they are all actually recognizing the way we are actually putting it in context. So I would say maybe that can be a good action item for ICMA to really just outline that and then communicate consistently with all stakeholders, which can really make a difference. So with that, I would come to you, Vipul. And I know we talked about the regulatory portion of it, we talked about the advisory portion of it, and we heard about the skilling, and we talked about the equipment manufacturer side of it. So you are actually going to be sort of spread between everybody because you are a solution provider, net. And India has always got a strong credence on being a big technology service provider, and you are definitely a big portion of it. So my question to you is, again, obviously every technology's solutions actually comes against the backdrop of a challenge. So obviously it also really calls for recognizing a challenge as a challenge, which is a lot more cultural about it than anything else. So what do you think which is a need for a cultural shift towards safety first mindset in the industry, and what are the strategies for fostering a culture of safety, including the leadership commitment and employee engagement? That's number one. And what are your practical advice and actionable takeaways for construction companies looking to enhance job site safety through technology? That's number two.
First of all, thank you, ICMA, for inviting me for this discussion on job site safety. And also, it is very heartening to note that you have included job site safety as a topic, and that to the first topic in today's session, which shows your commitment towards job site safety. So that's the first step already being made by you. Really heartening to note that. So yes, cultural shift, good question. I have been asking myself over these years, like we started this organization providing safety and advanced warning solutions to mining, construction, and also port industry around 12 years. And during my interaction, because we keep on meeting customers, we personally visit them, we participate in exhibitions. So it's like, okay, I can divide my feedback, my opinion into mining industry one and construction, though mining and construction go hand in hand. But there is a sea difference between the safety being implemented in the mining industry and then on the other side, the construction industry. Of course, everyone knows, we have already discussed, some of the panelists have mentioned about DGMS, you all must be aware. So because DGMS is there since, I think, 25 years, and over the last few years, they have been really very, very active in terms of coming out with the legislation and also enforcing it by means of visits and giving violations and all. So in mining, danda deke bhi ho jata hai because of the presence of DGMS. Willingly or unwillingly, I am using that word. And like you know, a rear view camera system or a proximity warning, fatigue system, we have to give full credit to them. No, we are talking about fatigue system now in passenger vehicles, in construction equipment and all, but DGMS pioneered, like they introduced it almost 6-7 years back. And of course, automatic fire detection, a whole host lot of solutions they have, like envisaged and made it statutory for the mining equipment. But if we look at the construction equipment, my personal experience is that there is hardly any implementation of these engineering controls. I would say not zero, but like except for top-notch companies like L&T who have high safety standards, their own QHSE, OSAS standards and all. And being L&T, they do have regulations like installation of rear view cameras or seat belts, reverse alarms and all. But other than L&T, I would not know like if the entire other community of organized construction equipment, construction companies or some unorganized also implementation of any of these engineering controls. It's like, when we talk about, when we go and introduce ourselves, we are into safety solutions. First thing that comes to their mind is like helmet and safety shoes and PPEs. So that is the penetration, basically the awareness, the penetration that safety other than mining industry is only limited to PPEs. Is it like that? So no, equipment safety, it is still a new concept. We have to like actually tell them that it's like we are into equipment safety, a camera system or a 360-degree camera or a beacon light. Or a basic product like a backup alarm. People are not aware what a backup alarm is, what should be the standard, what should be the decibel level. They misunderstand backup alarm for a reverse sensor and things like that. So it's really, as far as construction industry is concerned, the penetration, the awareness, the implementation is like almost nil. And even within the mining industry also, though there are statutory rules, but willingly we find seldom, top-notch companies like Tata Steel going all out to implement whatever not only DGMS has prescribed, but even if they find more solutions which can mitigate safety, which can reduce fatality or accidents, they are willing to embrace it, which is something very commendable. But and another challenge we see is challenge or differentiators is within construction industry. Taking example of L&T again, we often see them telling us, okay, for our own equipment, yes, I don't mind implementing this particular solution, though it comes at a cost. We can still think, but for the contractor. So again, this differentiator is always going to be there, particularly with more and more operations being outsourced. So, I'm willing to implement in my equipment, but what about the contractor equipment? Uske liye kya karenge hum? They are not going to spend this much money, or we are not going to reimburse them this much amount and all. So it's like a catch-22 situation. Who will bail the cat? Also, I would like to mention the construction equipment manufacturer. All these engineering controls, the safety solutions like cameras or proximity warning systems or some LED lights and all, it's not being given as a standard feature. It's optional. Again, a differentiator, we find them during our interaction. Yes, we need these camera systems for our export machines. So when it comes to exporting, you exporting the equipment, you have a different set of standards. When you are selling it to the Indian market, you have a different set of standards. Why this differentiator?
And again, these are my interactions that I'm sharing with you. So when it like export, maybe we'll put a beacon, we'll have a rear view camera, good quality for Indian market, either no cameras or slightly lower cost. And I'm like somebody already mentioned, cost is it's like it's a challenge. Cost is of course a challenge. We are not saying that it's not a challenge to you, and no, you have to. There is a tough competition out there. But then again, so cultural shift will start from where? From the end user, the construction company which is purchasing your excavator or a wheel loader or a dozer, or the OEM who should make it mandatory that okay, I would like to give this minimum safety solutions as a part of my equipment and not make it optional, not creating a differentiator. So that's a big question, but easier said than done. But somewhere it should start with, and I think most of us providers of these safety solutions, the major business comes from aftermarket. So it does mean that from the factory there is like zero or very less implementation from the factory side, whether actually that should be how it is, not very sure. So yeah, that is the first question, who will bell the cat, and know from where it would start.
Thanks, Vipul, and a few points which came out very clearly is definitely it's not like all sectors are at the same platform. When you talk about at least two sectors, what you came out with, yes, mining and construction, mining is definitely at a different level of maturity, whereas construction is at a very low level of maturity. So one thing which we can definitely look at is how construction can actually learn from mining. Is one aspect of it in terms of embracing safety as a culture. The second thing is, even within that, you did talk about the differences between the end users. And you talked about a specific end user who has got a different level of maturity as compared to the other one. So maybe that's something which the government also need to really think about. What are those prerequisites for being a contractor? Because at the end of the day, all these infrastructure projects are actually to do with the public spending. So definitely that's an important aspect which you brought about. And you did talk about what as a OE we need to do. You talked about don't consider the safety features as an option, rather you make it as a standard fitment. I know there are cost challenges which we need to find a way to mitigate, but overall you talked about what as a collective industry we all need to agree upon offering as a standard safety features to all the equipment. So definitely that's a good point. So thanks for actually just outlining some of the suggestions and thoughts of yours on what will it take to really embrace technological safety as a cultural aspect of it. So with this, we pretty much come to the end of all the panelist points of view, and I would just like to summarize a few points. I know I don't want to read everything, but I will touch upon the key points, what we talked about, and I know touch upon one or two things. One thing I would say, not even two, because from Saurabh talked about SEM Act, because that's a key takeaway. We do want one act which will regulate all the wide repository of equipments which are under the purview of CE industry, which is the SEM Act. So that's number one. And Mr. A.K. Swami talked about how do ICMA actually give those telematics data for them to really look at what aspects of safety that needs to be embedded for the future projects, and that's an important aspect of it. And DK, you talked about the operator certification to be made mandatory. And Sundaresh, you did talk about, as much as we need to really talk about skilling, you talked about what will it take to really just embed the features on the machine which can actually help us to de-skill, and which will also tie into what you just said, Mr. Vipul. And Reggie, you talked about the challenges, and of course, more than the challenges, I always say the opportunities. How do we really ensure that the technologies, as much as we are actually positioning, how do we ensure the end users also to be adaptable to those technologies? That's an important aspect of it. And Pankaj, you brought a good point on how do we educate the end users on the return on investment. And it's not just about a short term, it's also about the near term, long term, as well as direct and indirect, which is a great point, because definitely that's where we all struggle to convince the end users, and that's an important thing. And people, you talked about really learning from some of the matured industries which are actually way ahead, and then see how we can actually embrace. And moreover, you talked about what we as an industry can do apart from letting others do their portion of it. So again, overall a great discussion, and I think this really gets us to the end of the first panel discussion, and thanks to each and every one of the eminent panelists to share your thought process. And as I said, this is definitely going to be the beginning of the journey to really see how we can actually translate all these thoughts into action in the coming days. And I'm sure the tech panel will take all of these thoughts and then work on it to really make it a reality. And with this, I thank you all once again for being part of this panel, and we come to the official end of the session.